tend to reach out potentially to offer you corporate dollars. And so these are the things you want to think about when you approach them. You want to come into that conversation like this. You don't want to come in this conversation like this. And what I mean by that is, be proud of what you do. You all work for one thing and one thing only, a mission. We all work for missions. That's what we do. And so you go in and you're proud of your mission, and you're able to help the corporation achieve that. So, we've heard of the terminology return on investment. I'm going to make the case to you as to how a company, a corporation, a small business can see a return on their philanthropic investment. Now, again, I'm not overpromising here. I don't believe that you could turn around and say to any corporation, if you give to us, you're going to see the ability of more people drinking Coca-Cola. If you give to us, you're going to see more people buy your copiers. It's not going to happen. And don't ever go into the conversation that way. It's more about the idea, if you give to us, see what could happen in the long run by doing some of these things. So why do they give? The first one we'll talk about later. I want to get into this concept of cause-related marketing. The second one, this is a very common reason why companies give. Improve employee morale and thus increase productivity. So we are finally seeing ourselves come out of the recession. And what I mean by that, in the last couple years, we at the Hylton Center have seen an uptick in corporate support. And so even though there's been an uptick in the economy, only in the past year have I heard that companies are actually offering folks some bonuses, some raises, but there was a way they had to do something to still make employees happy. And this is where, being a nonprofit, you can offer them something. So in other words, what we do at the Hylton Center, we encourage companies, take on a sponsorship with us, and then in that sponsorship package, we can offer you tickets to a performance and use them to give to your employees. So in other words, what all of you have to offer, you may have that opportunity to turn around and say, you, corporation, utilize what we have to offer it to your companies, to your employees. And so that's a benefit. Think about it. I say every morning I wake up, I'm really happy, I love going to work, because at the end of the day I can say, I'm achieving a mission, the mission to bring the performing arts, the visual arts education, make sure the lights are on in a beautiful venue. I'm proud to get up every morning. I sometimes wonder how my colleagues that are in the for-profit industry, how do they wake up in the morning? People that work for Coca-Cola, are they excited? I got one more bottle of Coca-Cola in someone's pocket, in their hand. Or someone, and I'm not not-for-profit, but what I'm trying to say to you, I don't think you realize what we do right now is a huge, amazing thing, and I'm noticing more and more millennials are going into this as a profession. My niece, who goes to Penn State University, worked on Thon. If you're not familiar with that, look it up. It's one of the most successful fundraising, crowdfunding that students do. She basically said, I think I want to go work in the nonprofit industry. She's finding instantaneous reward on her fundraising efforts. So again, I'm saying all this to instill pride in yourselves, because again, people want to support a success, and if they hear you talking like success, it becomes contagious and infectious. And the reality, at the end of the day, if a corporation gives, what happens to the others? They want to give too. And so it becomes this ripple effect. And I will say, I'll make the case, it's the same thing with individuals. It becomes contagious. So they want to give to increase productivity, because at the end of the day, they weren't able to provide raises. They can only give so many days off. So they say, hey, we have this opportunity, we're working with this nonprofit, and we're going to give you the benefit of our support. The third one, facilitate the improvement of the public image of the company. Well, this happens all the time. We know right now one of the largest corporations in Virginia is a company that changed their name. It used to be Philip Morris, and it's now Altria. Classic example of a company that is a huge supporter for nonprofits. And I dealt with them a lot when I worked at the Corcoran, because they were a big supporter of the visual arts. Talk about a company that wanted to change their image. Every day we hear about, the ills of tobacco, and I can guarantee you in a couple of years, when we find out more about e-cigarettes, they'll be hearing again about the disadvantage of folks that are partaking in that and what the company's responsibility is. So it doesn't surprise anyone in the nonprofit industry. Companies like that really want to better their image. How can you better your image? Support a nonprofit, support social needs, support the community, support the environment, support the arts. So think in your minds in terms of your own worlds. Who are the companies out there that might need a little better image, a better way that people are looking at them? Now, I mentioned the millennials in the beginning of this conversation. They are right now the largest consumers, and many companies are looking at them. They also happen to be a group of individuals, as you see every day, are very much interested about social needs, what's happening, making sure there is tomorrow. All of that resonates with us in the nonprofit because our outcomes, what we're working on, is to, for all intents and purposes, to better our world. And so any way that you can think about what you're presenting to corporations about what you're doing for that particular group is a big plus because that's their customer base.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I just want to get your thoughts on this. So let's say, for example, like Korea approaches the Parks and Rec department and wanted to sponsor something. Since our mission statement a lot is focused on like health and wellness, like I don't know if we would want to do some kind of like partnership or something like that. But at the same time, like turning down a significant amount of sponsorship dollars to reduce the burden on taxpayers is also like a conflict. So
Yeah.
what's your thought process?
It's a really good question, and actually that came up in class last night. They said, Professor Kennedy, why would we want to take money from a company that for all intents and purposes is doing something we're considering an ill? I would say this, you all have boards, you all have leadership, you all have people on your staff. A good nonprofit is transparent, and so what I would say, have internal conversations with your leadership and do a balancing test. So for me, in the world of what I did for the Corcoran, of being able to provide exhibitions about contemporary art where no other corporation was providing that kind of support, we talked about it internally, and we thought it outweighed what we thought was the social impact. If you're dealing with a population that is so close to what that company's doing in terms of the public image that's bad, you might want to think twice. So I would say have that internal conversation. It's a totally balancing test. And I just saw recently that question come up again because this is going to come out more and more. It's not just going to be about companies, it's going to be about individuals. Every other day we're reading about someone that's doing something that we just don't think they should be doing. And the question becomes, do you want that person as your donor? Do you want that company as your support? So have a conversation. Be prepared to be able to make the statement to the public. We at George Mason had to do that recently. We received a large gift from the Koch family, and that's K-O-C-H, not C-O-K-O-C-K-E. And basically what the university said was we view ourselves as bipartisan. We accept funding from folks that may be on the far right, as well we do accept funding from people that give on the far left. I will say though, even when you do take gifts like that, you may have some donors saying, just don't want to go there, and you might lose support. And it did happen to us. But it was an internal conversation we had, and we were prepared to make that public statement.
Great, thank you.
Lower corporate costs, grants for research. Honestly, anyone that really is in the science industry, this really does hold true. So you think of a pharmaceutical company like AstraZeneca, huge. And so many companies, unfortunately, the one place they always cut is R&D, research and development, those dollars. One of the advantages a nonprofit could do, especially like a university, is they could offer to a company like a pharmaceutical, provide us with grants, provide us with the corporate dollars, let us do the research for you that could, in essence, lower your R&D. So you would think, well, how does that resonate with me, in my world? Think of your product, think of your services. Is there a way that what you do that could offer for a company the ability of being able to lower the cost, because you yourselves would take it on if they take over if they provide you sponsorship? For us, we do it with Micron. We have a school of engineering, and so they're very interested in partnering with us because their idea is they need recruitment. They right now are seeing a shortage, and I know Lockheed as well. They need immediate people coming out of college, going right into jobs. So their interest is recruitment. So think of anything in your world that may resonate with that idea of what can we do to lower their costs if we provide the product or the service for them. Now, I want to stop there for a second because you're thinking, I don't even know where to begin. She's talking up here, I'm down here. Think in your worlds of the low-hanging fruit. And for every one of you, I can tell you what your low-hanging fruit is, it's your vendors. That's your closest group of corporate or small businesses that are working with you. Think of they right now are working in some capacity, even if it's the company that's cleaning for your buildings, if it's the folks that are, they're providing you the paper or your copying machines. Think of those that are providing you a service. That's usually where you should start to begin to think of that group, who could potentially be a viable corporate support for our nonprofit. Because think about it, they want you to thrive. They want you to stay in business. Why not? Because you already have this business relationship. And so I know Jackie works with me, and that's usually where we begin. We look at our vendors. Evergreen is a company that actually does all of the cleaning janitorial work for George Mason University. Absolutely, they want us to be working and thriving because at the end of the day, it provides them with a business. And it stays, so we're talking two separate things. It's not like all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're talking like a quid pro quo. I get the contract if I give money. No, it's not like that. They already are designated cleaning. It's talking to them about over here, wearing your sort of, I'm the nonprofit. We are part of George Mason University's foundation, and I'm talking about we have this great space. Maybe they might want to sponsor our family series. And it's getting their name out there, and we're keeping our relationship with them doing our business. So think in your own world. Who are your vendors? Who are the small businesses that work with you? They're the easiest to begin this conversation. Projects that address community needs. So again, going back up to the branding, thinking about those millennials, thinking about all of you that are in the nonprofit, doesn't it make you feel great to know companies that do support you and support others? I mean, let's face it, I actually know I will choose, going sometimes to Target over Walmart. Target by far supports more nonprofits than Walmart does. It's a fact. And so I think this stuff, because this is what I do for a living. However, I'm telling you again, millennials are paying attention to this stuff a lot more. Projects appeal to corporate leadership. What that means is, so you're thinking, well, gosh, none of the small businesses that work with me, none of the vendors that work with me, I don't even think they like my product. I don't even know if they like, what we do. I would say stop right there for 1 second and think about their leadership. I will tell you this story. When I worked for the Washington National Opera, the largest corporate donor to the opera is General Dynamics. You're thinking, why would a governmental contractor that makes military equipment care about the opera? Well, it had everything to do with Nick Shabraya, who was the CEO at the time when I was there. Absolutely loved opera. He never got enough of being able to see Madame Butterfly. Loved it. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, it was priceless because I would get the phone call, we'd get the support, but the reason that company gave was because of their leadership had this interest. So you think, well, how am I going to find this stuff out? Well, some of them you can. Anytime you go to any company that has a website, scroll down, and find that about the company, and read about their leadership. Even small businesses are doing this now. They'll list their bio, and that bio may say, something about the business, but people more and more want to know who they are. And they may say, I'm an avid biker. I have pets. I'm married. I have 2 children. I went to such and such university. That's information. It's giving you a little bit about that person. And let me tell you, by using that information to reach out to them, makes it one step closer than just being yet another cold call they're getting. So, dear so-and-so, I see that you're an avid biker from your bio site. We are trying to do a new trail in the such and such park. We'd love to have a conversation with you to see if you'd be interested in sponsoring this trail. Sincerely yours, duh. Now me being that, I thought, no, that nonprofit took the time to get to know me. The more you're connecting to the leadership, it gets closer and closer to them feeling that connection. And then finally, the last one, so the second reason why companies may support nonprofits, they want their employees to do something good for the community. So Accenture's a big one of this. You'll see them out there. I know they'll do like MLK Day. They're out like working and sort of different social needs. A lot of corporations will support Habitat for Humanity because they want to have their employees the opportunity to go out there and be able to do, basically something good. It's that sort of win-win. It's like, because the truth is, statistics are coming out more and more that the more that you are just sitting behind a computer screen, your productivity is just plummeting. Last night driving home for class, interesting conversation about sleep. Did you know that we're all doing it wrong? We should be sleeping 2 times a day. We should be sleeping at night, wake up, and then we should be having that siesta as the Europeans were doing in the middle of the day. They did the study, they said in Greece, where they had taken away siesta. It was astounding, the increase, the number of heart attacks and effects on their health. So the other part too, on our campus we have the edge, and I'll be looking out my window, see these people out in the woods like, who are these people? That's team building, and that stuff's gonna happen more and more. Well, wouldn't it be wonderful if a for-profit sponsored something of what you're doing, and the outcome was that their employees could go out there and help you do something? It's like a win-win. Team building, we're getting to know each other. Jack will find out, I have an aversion to, pollen. But the truth is, it becomes that whole wonderful experience. Company feels good because their employees feel good. The employees feel good because they're liking each other. They're not just sitting behind it. Win-win. And then here's the cool thing about it. Most of the support we're getting from corporate, it's renewing. It's renewing. And that's because in the world of fundraising, we focus on identifying, which is what I just talked before, cultivating, which is what, soliciting, which when you do that ask, and then stewarding. Hey, just FYI, this is what came up. And then you go through the whole process again. And and what I just said holds true for individuals, and it holds true for companies as well. I'm going to stop you before I go to the next part. Any questions so far? Thoughts? Anyone right now doing? Oh, go ahead.
I've been in touch with a company that operates out of Washington, D.C. I like the idea of proposing some of these ideas that you're talking about, but here we are in Prince William. So if their employees are scattered all around metropolitan Washington, what do I say to them to encourage them to isolate the Prince William County workers for a task? Or how does the logistics or living conditions, does that affect decisions in a negative way?
First question I would ask you, what is it about that company in Washington as to why you're approaching them?
Actually, I'm approaching them because I was in touch with one of their employees that was looking for a project for team building.
Okay.
And we recently moved into a new building for Project Menda House, and we do have some team activities available. Plus in the spring we always have different kinds of spring cleanup events or fall cleanup events. So I wanted to propose that activity for a couple of their teams. But what if they say to me, well, so-and-so lives offshore in Maryland, and this one's up here in Laurel, and...
So you know what they say about assume, right?
That's it. Okay. Shouldn't assume. Okay.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because most of my career was in D.C. Many of us that we were working in D.C. loved to go a little west. You don't assume, you got approached. I would continue down that road, be proud of who you are, let them know. One of the biggest things we find out with folks that want to come to us in the Kennedy Center, we have free parking. So parking, when I ever go in DC, it's like, where am I going to park? I got to now do the whole thing with the meter and the phone. So I wouldn't assume. If they approached you, follow through.
Okay.
Follow through. All of you. Don't just continue. And we just talked about this today. I have a donor that's like crickets, and I was like, guys, it's like dating. And my 20-something said, yeah, I know what that is, it's ghosting. And in the world of dating, that means when you're like, hello, I just thought, you keep calling, you don't get that response back. It's basically, I would say, in the world of Frozen, let it go. Just let it go. Let it go, move on. So, you have someone that's asked you for something, follow through. Every single time I get someone that calls me, I follow up, because you never know. Never know. And at the end of the day, what does it hurt? Because the other part of beauty of all that I'm talking about, and your marketing people will love this, you are providing visibility for who you are. Every ask that you do that doesn't work out, it's still visibility. It's still giving them, like, knowing who you are. Because you know what? You get the no's. The no could be, we didn't do our budget. You're hitting us at the wrong time. The no could be ultimately not this year, maybe next year. Jackie and I get that all the time, and there's times when it's a no this year and it's a yes, next year, and I've had the reverse. Yes, no. Be fluid. And the reality is, the goal is you don't ever just want to have one. It's like fishing. You don't want to go after one. You want to have a whole, you're just going out there, you're fishing, bringing it back, because you never know. And then the truth is, the cool thing is, if that works out and it's a great experience, ask them to spread it to the people near them, so then you might actually have more people come out. So don't assume.
I would add one more to your list, and that is if your mission can help fulfill their business desires, not just their employee, but we have a great partnership with Miniland. We have tons of kids who come to us. They have tons of kids that come to them. We can provide things they can't to their kids. They can provide things we can't. So look for almost joint marketing, if you will, but it's also develops into a sponsorship. So, kind of know the business models of those people out there and go to them with how you can help them fulfill their business needs or whatever, and then they're all on board because you're understanding who they are and you're helping them to achieve greater success. And those conversations are fun conversations to have, really fun conversations to have.
Beverly's right. Think like them. Why would I support you? How can I, for me, we get a lot of, as you can imagine, financial institutions. Why? Because, let's face it, at the end of the day, a lot of what we do is beginning to attract what I would call high net worth. And so in other words, they want access. They want access to being able to have access to that group. And so it's becoming more popular that I hear from them. So Beverly's right. Think of what you do and what is it about what I do that may be of interest to that corporation, that company, that small business. I just want to talk briefly about cause-related marketing because I do work in the arts. This is something to think about because many of you work in social services environment of how important this stuff is. So this is an example of something that American Express did. It's kind of like post 9/11, and it was a brilliant ad because of how and this is a classic example of cause-related marketing. You have to hit play.
Did you show the clip?
And then you can make it big.
Yeah, make it right.
Talk about smart. And they're all doing it. See? How many of you, Tom's was the first that was like, it was the point where they're not only are they marketing the product, but they're saying for every pair of Toms you buy, you're going to be able to do that. Oh my God, who doesn't want to buy Toms? It's like, look what it's like, it becomes that idea that they're taking their marketing and they're taking their product and they're taking the nonprofit need and going like this. You can't the consumers see the difference. You just know you feel good. You feel good knowing what Dawn did. That is absolutely a true story. Dawn dishwashing liquid, till this day, is probably the only product that was able to help out with all of the oil spills. And the cool thing is, and Google this, not only do the product work, but they're also giving. Win-win. So please don't buy another product but Dawn, for the fact that they did that. And then Pampers took it one step further. They're not even just saying buy Pampers. They're showing one pack equals one vaccine. They're showing that they're taking their corporate dollars to do that social need. And it's all in the way of the fact that, going back to what Beverly said, you're working with the company to help them sell their product, make them feel good, have the consumer feel good, and you, the nonprofit, are the recipient. So challenge yourself. I mean, you never know. Come up with some strategy as to, maybe what would work. When one of my biggest successes in DC was when we had the 30 Americans exhibition at the Corcoran, which was an exhibition of 30 African American live artists, huge. And I was able to get Morgan Stanley to give one of the largest donations in that area, because I said to them, look, you have a major opportunity here. Sitting right next to Washington, D.C. is one of the most affluent African American counties in the nation, Prince George County. You have a chance of making yourself known to this area in a way nobody else can. They thought it was so cool. My entire staff was asked to go to New York to do that presentation. And we did it, and we got the grant. I mean, we got the sponsorship. That's all I did. I looked at them, I'm like, no-brainer to me. Why would you not want to be the sponsor to that exhibition? It was this. It's showing you that you're connecting the nonprofit to the business need. And at the end of the day, it became a win-win. And it became a renewal and a relationship that I continued the whole time that I was there. So briefly, I just want to remind you, remember, there's also the internal side of a company. All of this stuff is happening inside a company. And for you, this is money on the table, so easy to get. The first, very simple. How many of you do letters to your donors, your members, asking them to give? All the time. I ask you to put one additional sentence in that letter. Please check to see whether or not the place that you work matches your gift. Money on the table. That means if I give $500 to my nonprofit I like, and I work for IBM that I know did this, match a one-to-one, that's a one-to-one. So what, 500 becomes 1,000, okay? Very, very easy. Payroll deduction. Encourage people in places to get their employees to give via payroll deduction. I always tell the story about why Planet Fitness is the most successful business model. Because the idea is, what they truly want is for you not to work out. They want you to take the membership, and they want you to sign up, and then they've got you. You know why? It's one thing to take that membership, it's another to feel guilty. It's like, I'd like to cancel it. How many can cancel their gym membership? It's like, I can't do that. I need to go back to the gym. So the idea is, the only way you can cancel is you have to opt out. We've been doing this on our memberships a lot, encouraging people to take a lifetime membership, encouraging people just, click that box, because the reality is, it's harder for a donor to opt out, because you feel guilty. You don't want to stop giving to the nonprofit you like. And so payroll deduction is one of those, out of sight, out of mind. And once someone does that monthly, bi-weekly, you don't even pay attention to it. So encourage your places that are giving to get their employees to give. Annual giving is basically the idea that companies take on their nonprofit for the year. They rally everyone, like, hey, guess what? This year, we're going to do the candy factory. And so it becomes this sort of external, internal. And then finally, this one I laugh, because we all know what the internal is. Jackie, every year I walk down, I see your cubicle, and I see that little thing that says chocolate mint, and then the cookies. And that is probably the most successful example of an internal employee fundraising, the Girl Scout cookies. I mean, it's like, you can't avoid it, and you do it. So all of us are internally, so you may want to think about it. If you have a cheerleader or ambassador in your groups that the company does allow them to go in and do a little fundraising for you, go for it. Because most of us, we like to support our colleagues, and so we will support on that level. So let's talk events. First and foremost, I'm not a fan of fundraising events. And so I'm going to give you the pros, and I'm going to give you the cons, and then I want you to go back to your organizations, and before you say, we're going to do a golf tournament, we're going to do a gala, I want you to think about this, really think about this. These are the pros. It is still, I will be honest, the most popular way companies give is via fundraising events, sponsorships of that sort. So that's a fact. It still is. Excellent networking opportunity. You have your chance, you're gonna have all these people come with their guests, their colleagues. I tell this story to my staff, I never expect the Hylton Gala to net a huge net every year more and more. It's not my goal. My goal is to have a successful event. We net a positive, but this is the most important part about it. Last year, Amazon Web Services took a table to our gala. We didn't even know them. This year, they're giving us $75,000 to the Veterans in Arts Initiative, and that gift will now be renewed probably on a multi-year basis. All of that happened because they came and we got to know them at our fundraiser. That's a big plus for funders, networking and getting to know them. And then finally, high visibility for your nonprofit. You guys look great when you do when you do a tournament or a gala. It's your best and brightest. You're all, you look good. You're dressed well. Your staff is working hard. You're building yourself up for something. So that's all, to me, the positives. The negatives. Labor intensive. Oh my gosh. I am right now thinking of who was gluten-free, who's not gluten-free, who's to sit next to someone and not sit next to someone, who's not coming, who doesn't know it's black tie optional, who is like, it's very labor intensive from my level to low. And imagine for all of you, when you're looking, you're like, she has all these people, I'm just by myself. Labor intensive. Net a negative. It is a high probability you will net a negative. The rule of thumb is this. First year, you probably will net a negative. Second year, you better break even. Third year, if you are not showing a positive, stop. In my second year at the Washington National Opera, I will never forget, they were like, we're going to do a golf tournament. Like, opera, golf? I'm not seeing it. We literally had Placido Domingo going around in the golf course. Hello, hello. I'll never forget this. But we didn't net a positive. People had a glorious time. Who wouldn't? Placido Domingo, golfing, leather bags. I'm like, this is insane. My boss is in tears. Like, I hate golf. I don't even know what golf is. And so think about all of that. Lack of experience for staff. If you don't know how to do an event, don't now begin to figure out. I mean, again, unfortunately, I have some of my staff that knows how to do them, but it is not an easy task. I'm just throwing that out to you. So I think your lowest hanging fruit to get the first dollar in the door is a really simple solicitation letter to your membership base. Easiest way to get funding in. And finally, let's face it, every other day, even in our area, I'm seeing an event. So you're competing with all these other people doing events. So think about the pros, think about the cons, and weigh it. And again, do an internal conversation with your organization. Because you may think, well, I don't know, I mean, the things she was talking about in the pros, we kind of have all this. We do kind of have some people on staff that love to do events. And we've seen some success with what I would say go for it. But have the conversation first.
I'll
Yes.
make one quick comment in regard to the con of a net negative. What I have seen a lot of nonprofits do, for example, with a golf tournament, they say, oh, we took in this money and it cost us this much to run it. We made a profit, forgetting to add in the labor costs and time of the staff. And when you enter that in, oftentimes that positive turns to a negative.
That's a really good point. So we are guilty of that. I know we literally look at our expenses and we look at how much we raise, and then we take it as what that net is. Nowhere in that we take in the fact that our staff time. That's a really good point. And then, again, the smaller, you really do have to take that consideration because, I'm not a firm believer of, especially, the best way to keep staff is to not make them thinking like, they're burning the candle at both ends. That's an excellent point. Briefly, I'm just going to show, these are examples, and I'm not going to get into them, but I want you to look at other nonprofits. Now, of course, I'm in the arts museum area. These are all examples of corporate partnerships. What you will do when you do get support, if you go to our website, you have to do acknowledgement with logos. A lot of times they want to be able to see the logo placement very close to what you're doing. And then ultimately, it is sort of like a pyramid. So the larger the gift, the bigger the logo, the more the visibility. But really think about more and more about ultimately, as Beverly said, think who they are. Think them. They at the end of the day do have, there's a reason they are termed for profit, which by the way, nonprofit doesn't mean you can't have a profit. The only difference is it has to go back into your mission versus into stakeholders. So I would encourage you to look at, other organizations out there that have, are getting corporate support to see how they're doing their acknowledgements and what kind of benefits that they're offering them. That's all I have. Thank you.